The ink was still wet on my divorce papers when I stood in the hallway of the building, eviction notice folded in my pocket like a weapon. The walls smelled of old paint and secrets. I knocked once, then again. When she opened the door, she didn't look afraid. She looked prepared. "You're late," she said. I told her she hadn't paid rent in 30 years. She smiled like I'd mispronounced my own name. "Check your grandfather's old ledgers," she said, "then come back." I laughed, a short, brittle sound. I was tired of being lied to, tired of finding fingerprints where trust used to be. I turned to leave, already rehearsing the court filing in my head. That was my mistake. I met my grandfather when I was 6. He smelled like pipe tobacco and ink. He taught me to count money twice. He taught me to keep records. "Paper remembers," he used to say. When he died, the building passed to my mother, then to my ex-wife through marriage, and now, after the betrayal, it came back to me, a consolation prize wrapped in brick and liability. My ex and I met young. She loved order. I loved patterns. We built a life on spreadsheets and Sunday dinners. She managed the properties. I trusted her. I signed what she put in front of me. That was the first sin. The second came quietly. Missed meetings, a phone locked face down, laughter that stopped when I entered rooms. I didn't accuse. I observed. I catalogued. Betrayal leaves residue if you let it dry. The proof arrived on a Tuesday, a message meant for someone else, sent to me by accident. 2 words too intimate to misunderstand. I didn't scream. I didn't ask why. I closed my laptop and started planning. By the time I inherited the building, the marriage was already ash. I needed something solid, something I could control. That's when the unpaid rent surfaced in the audit. 30 years. A ghost tenant on paper. A rounding error turned legend. I went to the basement archive that night. Dust bloomed when I opened the cabinets. My grandfather's ledgers were there, bound in cracked leather, numbers written with a careful hand. Paper remembers. I flipped to the year the tenant moved in. There was no rent recorded, not once. Instead, there were credits, notes, initials I didn't recognize at first. Then I did. My mother's maiden name, my ex-wife's initials added years later in a different pen. I sat on the cold floor and read until my eyes burned. The woman upstairs wasn't a delinquent. She was a beneficiary. The building wasn't just an investment, it was a penance. 30 years ago, my grandfather's partner, my mother's father, embezzled from a union fund. The tenant's husband took the fall. Prison, heart attack, death. My grandfather covered it up. He paid the widow by erasing her rent, quietly, forever. When my mother took over, she continued it. When my ex took control, she didn't just continue it, she monetized it. She had been siphoning money from the maintenance budget, billing fake repairs, pocketing the difference. She kept the tenant quiet by threatening eviction if she ever spoke. She used my grandfather's handwriting as camouflage. She used my trust as leverage. I felt something settle in my chest. Cold, clean. I didn't confront my ex, not yet. I copied the ledgers. I hired a forensic accountant. I filed a preservation order. I met with the tenant again, this time with coffee and an apology. She told me everything, dates, names, amounts. She cried once. I didn't. The plan took 6 months. I moved slowly. I reopened the books. I corrected the credits. I restored the maintenance fund. I installed cameras in common areas. I documented every transaction my ex had touched. I waited. When the subpoena landed, she called me. Her voice tried to sound calm. "This is a misunderstanding." I told her to check the ledgers. The courtroom smelled like disinfectant and fear. I testified with my grandfather's words echoing in my head. Paper remembers. The judge listened. The accountant explained. The numbers told the story without raising their voice. My ex watched the screen as the transactions stacked up, each one a nail. She didn't look at me until the end. The tenant was there too, hands folded, eyes steady. Justice is quiet when it finally arrives. The verdict wasn't dramatic, no gavel slam, just consequences, restitution, charges, the building placed under my sole management, the maintenance fund restored, the tenant's lease formalized at 0 rent, retroactive, with an apology attached. Outside, my ex asked me why I hadn't warned her. I did, I said, 30 years ago. You just weren't listening. That night, I walked the halls again. The walls still smelled old, but lighter. The building breathed easier. I did too. I'm not proud of the revenge. I'm satisfied by the symmetry. Betrayal thrives in shadows. I brought light. I didn't burn anything down. I just let the truth finish the job. Paper remembers. So do I.